Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, worldwide every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we also want to say thank you to all of our Latin listeners. So thank you and bienvenidos to you. Also, you good old boy listeners out in London, England, as well as the great country of France. And of course, we love Canada, Big C. I've done such a horrible job with the Canadian national anthem. I'm going to go take a 3-game suspension the same way Tom Brady took 4, Big C. But I also want to say thank you to you good old boys down in Australia. And of course, the great United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, speaking of brave and speaking of free, I know you good old boys down south, when you drink a lot of moonshine, you really feel brave, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys?
Well, we're always free and brave down here because to take that elixir up, Charlton, you got to be brave. You know, you always got somebody hunting you down. We're trying to get on the level of Paul Mitchell, the creator of Patron Tequila.
Oh, yeah.
You know, great American alcohol, everybody thinks it's from Mexico. But the hair man, Paul Mitchell, created that, Charlton. So we want to be on his level. Maybe our hair will grow just like his.
Well, I remember back in the day, I dated this good old girl from the South. Man, she was really good looking, but she would not do her hair, Big C. I said, so why don't you do something to your hair? She said, you got to like me the way I am, Big C. She was always drinking that beer. I guess it was moonshine or whatever it was, but she used Paul Mitchell after she got older. But back in the day, she said, take me as I am or don't take me at all, Big C. So after she fired me, I understand I shouldn't be so judgmental, Big C. But also, speaking of moonshine and Paul Mitchell, it's amazing how products, Big C, so many products can come out of corn and so many products can be used for different things like in elixir. I don't know anybody that doesn't use, I think it's called peroxide for taking care of cuts and scrapes. Some people that I met from the South, they use this plant called aloe vera, Big C. Now, you really think aloe vera is healthy for you? It's free from what I understand. You go to the doctor, they charge you $50 or something. Aloe vera, it cures the same cut for free. Do you guys use that stuff down south, Big C?
We like to use mud. When you think about all the antibacterial bacteria that's in mud, Charlton, it really cleans the pore. Or if we can't find any mud, the dogs around, he'll lick the wound. And, he'll clean it up for you.
Well, speaking of mud, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, I think you just gave the whole audience a clue because we were talking about what you use for scratches, and people think aloe vera, or some people think go to the doctor. You said mud. Is that the same mud that you wash your Cadillac in, Big C?
It works, it keeps people away from your car, and it keeps that wound from getting infected, Doctor. So it's a multi-purpose source, and it's natural and it's free.
You're saying nobody wants to steal a dirty car. You really have a point. Every time somebody's car is stolen, when you watch movies like Cops, you never see a dirty, muddy car being stolen that smells like catfish. You only see the cars that are clean. So Big C, that moonshine's really enlightened your creativity. I really appreciate that. And speaking of lightening your creativity, there's so much happening in the world of sports. We talked about the Kaepernick issue, and we talked about one coach that I really have a lot of respect for, Big C. And I think he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. But I told you, I love intelligent people. Greg Popovich was asked that same question about, it wasn't just about Kaepernick, it was about Black Lives Matters and police brutality, good cop, bad cop, social issues, when is a good time to talk about anything. And other than some of the other media people, Greg Popovich, and I'm going to paraphrase, he said, I don't have the same experiences that some of these kids and young men are talking about having, but I understand they have the right to say whatever they want to say because it's their reality, Big C. He didn't chastise Colin Kaepernick. He didn't say he was less American, Big C. He expressed something that's so powerful. He's one of the most well-respected, let's just say white men in the world of sports. Greg Popovich, okay? No-nonsense kind of guy. But for him to come out and defend what Colin Kaepernick and whether it's Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, what they're saying about Black Lives Matter, I'm proud of seeing more white men saying, anyone that denies there's a racial problem in the United States, they're ignorant. For him to say that, and I don't see Trent Dilfer or Dabu Sweeney or, who's the guy that works on CBS Sports? Not Ditka, and even Boomer Esiason. They're not going to tell a white man who's intelligent and well-respected to sit down and shut up for espousing the same views that Colin Kaepernick did. So I'm proud of white America for the first time in a long time when it comes to defending black men. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I parallel that scenario, Charlton, to the movie Straight Outta Compton with NWA.
Yeah.
With these rappers saying about their lives. They weren't anti-American.
Yeah.
They sang about the communities that they grew up in, what the atrocities that they had to deal with on a daily basis. And people were saying they were anti-American and being negative.
Yeah.
When people speak up and the masses don't want to hear it, that's the true form of racism, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because you know someone is spouting the truth, but you don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah.
And when you don't want to hear the truth, you're saying that this guy is anti-something. No, he's not. He's telling you what you've been hiding and lying about for years.
Yeah.
To think that there's not a racial divide in this country, all you have to do is look at the economics, the education system, the housing system, Charlton, getting a loan from a bank.
Yeah.
You got to jump through a Cheerio if you're an African-American man trying to get a loan.
In fact,
you walk through a hula hoop if you're white trying to get a loan.
Well, believe it or not, I worked in the mortgage business several years, and there were a number of times that I worked with bankers. There's a bank called Wells Fargo, one of the most egregious banks in the country, that were just fined $148 billion. And now, are they patriotic for stealing money from Americans and making up false loans?
False accounts. False checking accounts, false banking accounts, committing fraud against the federal government every day because they're insured by the federal government.
Yeah.
But the CEO, and he was in front of Congress, Charlton, and would not even answer the questions, but he fired people under him that did not make the quotas. He should be fired. He should fire himself.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way, too. When Donald Trump talks about stop and frisk, and they want to stop and frisk anyone that they think might be committing a crime, they're going to have to go into every Wells Fargo bank, Big C, and start stopping and frisking the CEOs. But we know their code word was not for getting rid of white guys who are doing wrong. That's about going after people of color, Big C. So when people...
think about it from this perspective. If there was a young African-American man selling a little marijuana on the corner, he gets 7 to 8 years
7 to 8 years in prison,
You got these people committing a federal offense because it's against a federally backed institution, the bank. Committing fraud, mail fraud, and grand theft. How many of these people will be prosecuted, these presidents of these bank branches, and go to jail for creating these false accounts? There's a total disparity in the justice system in America. If you're committing a white-collar crime, Charlton, all you do is get a fine. If you're committing a little street action crime, you either get dead or go to jail.
Yeah, and you think about it, too, because this is so powerful because most of our major sports teams, they have a bank that endorses them, and there's several around, either banks or insurance companies. In fact, for a little geography lesson, whenever you drive around any major city, have you noticed that most of the tallest buildings in any city, Big C, they're either endorsed by a bank on the very highest floor or an insurance company on the very highest floor? So whether it's a Bank of America or a Chase or a Citibank, but Wells Fargo has been the most egregious and illegal foreclosures on Americans. Talk about being unpatriotic. They illegally foreclosed on Americans, and they had a settlement of over $20 billion with the California Attorney General. Now, I know a lot of people that just want to watch sports, they don't understand that. But the next time you take your bank or your money to Wells Fargo Bank, remember, this is the same bank that's whipping people off, and nobody's telling them to stand up and get out of the country, Big C. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people just like to watch sports. Think about all those people who lost their homes and could not watch sports anymore.
Yeah, same thing.
Wells Fargo, Chase, and these other huge banks took their homes away from them. Took their comfort domain away with them. Could not sit down and watch their sporting events via the NFL, college football, Major League Baseball, the NBA, hockey. Those people who lost their homes, millions of people.
Well, Big C.
These robo-predator loans that they put out there, and these banks got no punishment for it.
Now, for the most...
America suffered. American sports fans suffered. Even some athletes suffered, Charlton, behind these loans. They were called on.
Every single person that understands that. But where was the people telling the bank CEOs who are Caucasian men to shut up and sit down, or that they're not patriotic? Or, you know what I'm saying? They didn't tell them to protest and take away their scholarship and fire them. They're just kind of like, well, that's boys being boys, you know? So you think about that the next time you put your money in the Wells Fargo Bank, that they're actually committed fraud. Are any of them going to jail, Big C? Your thoughts on that?
But not a one of them will go to jail, Charlton. The CEO sat in front of Congress yesterday saying that, hey, you should fire yourself. He's not going to fire himself. He's getting $48 million a year in compensation, Charlton. He makes more money than Roger Goodell. Where is he going to go? He's like, hey, as long as I can pay myself all of these bonuses and commissions, I'm not going anywhere. You know, the federal government should just take him and lock him up. They have the authority to do it because of the fraud that he has committed. But they will not do it, Charlton, because he has paid so much money to the legislator. You know, these people are not going to put
the lobbyists. And you know what's ironic about that too, Big C? Most of these guys are good old boys, they're Caucasian, and most of them stand up for the American flag and the national anthem. Now, who's more patriotic? The guy stealing your grandparents' money, or a guy just saying he wants to stop black violence, Big C? And speaking of stopping violence and money, Big C, I want to say this next segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? I'm telling you, I keep telling you, Big C, they say repetition is the mother of all learning, so I keep buying tickets. Okay, Big C? I went down and bought another winning ticket for the California Lottery. It's actually the Mega Million. It's only about $50 million, so not a lot of money in your world, Big C, but it can really buy a lot of hamburgers for me out of here, and even catfish, Big C. Your thoughts on the lottery and how it helps people? And I don't think the lottery officials stole as much money as Wells Fargo Bank did, Big C, so that's a good investment for your money, more so than Wells Fargo. Your thoughts?
I don't know if the lottery can afford to buy you a house with just $50 million in California. I've seen some of the real estate out there. Now, back here, you can buy a whole county. So, you know, if I get it, I'll just rename everything.
That is so funny. And speaking of renaming, you know, we have a lot of college football to talk about coming up for the weekend. Major League Baseball is going to be decided for the playoffs. Actually, by the time Sunday rolls around in the National League, you're talking about the San Francisco Giants, also the St. Louis Cardinals, and you have some issues last night with the Cardinals and the Reds with some type of a decisive game that was ended by the officials, the umpires walking out of the stadium, Big C. I didn't see the whole call, but what happened, Big C?
What happened, there was a ground rule double, and they allowed the runner to score, Charlton, from first. Now, you got instant replay, and we've gone over this many times about the various sports, instant replay. Why do you have it if you're not going to utilize it to its fullest? That's what you have a hard time understanding. Now, when you think about the Reds' loss, and they were in the wild card chase, what this game is going to cost them? It's going to cost them being in the wild card. It could potentially cost the manager his job. So it's going to be a snowball effect from this. These officials just walked away, saying, well, it's a 30-second rule to challenge. You're supposed to get that call from the replay box down to the field. That's what that guy is there for. Baseball blew this on every level. So what if it comes down to the last game of the season, Charlton, and there's a half a game or one game disparity between these two teams? Do you bring them back and replay that inning, Charlton? Or do you just let it stand? Baseball, all sports, Charlton, if you're going to have instant replay,
you want to do it right.
Stop screwing the teams and stop screwing the fans, because they're too intelligent, and there's too many cameras that people are watching at home and recognize it, and even on the big board in the stadium.
They're like Donald Trump. You're going to believe me or your lying eyes. So that's why Donald Trump rolls, and I think maybe these umpires are watching the Republicans as they debated over the season, but it was Yadier Molina who actually hit a disputed double that drove in the winning run with 2 outs in the ninth inning for the host St. Louis Cardinals. And so that type of issue, you're right, Big C, it can decide who makes it into the playoffs or not. I know the Giants are looking at trying to just get a couple of games done. One this weekend actually in San Francisco, Big C. And in fact, the Giants start tonight versus the Dodgers at 7:05, actually 7:15 p.m. That's going to be on Comcast. They play the Dodgers on their arch rival, the team that came out from New York with them. They play the Dodgers on today at 7:15, Saturday at 1:05, and then Sunday at 12 o'clock. Now, ironically, the game Sunday at 12 o'clock will be the final game of the regular season unless there's a playoff for the Giants and Dodgers. And going into that game, their season could be over, Big C, or they can know if they're in the playoffs. That's good drama for baseball, even though baseball has 40 games too many, Big C. But I think this is a great time of the year for baseball. What would it mean for the Giants or the Dodgers, in your opinion? Vince Scully, unfortunately, is not going to be calling the game, Big C. But this is the rivalry that came out from the East Coast to the West Coast. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, the Dodgers are already in the playoffs, and the Giants are trying to get in. You know, what I don't like about these last couple of games of the season, Charlton, is those teams that have clinched the playoffs normally don't play all their starters. And so the fans are getting a reduced product. why don't you reduce the ticket for the fans, since you're giving the fans a reduced product, not playing your normal starters? And I'm not saying that the guys on the bench don't deserve to play.
Yeah.
But you got a fan coming out there in a playoff run.
Regular
and
money.
Not seeing the best competition available, Charlton.
Yeah, and so when you look at the wild card in the American League, you're looking at Toronto right now. Their record's 87-72. Baltimore, 87-72. Detroit's 85-73. And then Seattle up in the Great Northwest, they're 85-74. In the NL, it's the Mets with a one-game lead. They're 85-74. Followed by the Giants at 84-75, and also the Cardinals with that disputed game last night. They're at 83-76. So it's shaping up to be a very good playoff run, Big C, and we'll just have to pay attention to that. Also, going into the weekend, some great games that we should be seeing, Big C, in Major League Baseball. We have the Baltimore at New York Yankees, Cleveland at Kansas City, Detroit at Atlanta. Atlanta's building a new stadium. They should be in that, I think, either next season or the season after. Minnesota next season, and that's a great ballpark that they're leaving that was built for the Olympics. Minnesota at the White Sox, Toronto at Boston, and then Tampa at Texas, Houston at the Angels, and Oakland at Seattle. But Big C, as we transition into the world of college football, there's so many games. We even have a lot of NFL games coming up too, Big C. But tonight it all starts big time in the Pac-12. The Stanford Cardinals, they're actually going into Seattle, a game that has significance for the first time in a long time. The Stanford's ranked number 7 in the country. Washington's number 10. A Friday night at Husky Stadium, Puget Sound. Stanford has to play much better this week than they played against UCLA, Big C.
Well, they really struggled against UCLA last week, Charlton, scoring the game-winning touchdown less than a minute to go in the game.
Yeah.
But Chris Peterson has changed the outlook at Washington.
Yeah.
He has incorporated a lot of speed into this program. Used to be at Washington, you're worried about one player. Now he has a half a dozen players on offense that you have to worry about, Charlton, with the speed. He has a young quarterback that can really throw the ball.
Yeah.
Stanford quarterback is still unproven. He's only in his 4th, 5th game of the season.
Yeah.
Of his career, really. He sit on the bench behind a couple of great quarterbacks over the years. So I kind of give this game to Washington on the advantage, Charlton. Even though McCaffrey is such a great player,
yeah,
I like what Peterson has done at the University of Washington. He has brought that same mindset and mentality that he built at Boise State.
Yeah.
Now he's incorporated it up in the Puget Sound at the University of Washington.
Yeah.
This is probably the best that they've been since they had Don James back in the late 70s and early 80s as their head coach, Charlton.
Yeah, and many of the kids that Don James recruited to come up to Washington, they were actually from California. And so this game for the Huskies, they rebuilt their stadium. They renovated their stadium last year, Big C, and it looks like it's a gorgeous place to watch a football game. And this is a rare opportunity for Washington. It's just the 4th matchup of an Associated Press top 10 team at Husky Stadium since they played Nebraska and beat Nebraska back in the day on the Billy Joe Hobart, Big C. But another game that really has the national spotlight, more so than Washington and Stanford, is coming on Saturday. And that game is going to be played down in Death Valley, where you have Clemson. They're at home versus Louisville, Big C. I want your opinion on these top 2 quarterbacks because you were all over this kid Jackson before this season started, and we know how good Watson is. Your thoughts on this game? Las Vegas money's going to Louisville. That tells me that Clemson's probably going to find a way to win this game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about these are the most 2 dynamic quarterbacks that you'll see all year in a game facing each other, Charlton.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson was a preseason favorite for the Heisman. Lamar Jackson wasn't even on the radar, but he's the early season favorite.
Yeah.
Clemson has a tremendous defense, but they still have not faced anybody such as the caliber of Lamar Jackson, nor has he faced the caliber of Clemson defense.
Yeah.
So this is a game that 2 quarterbacks will make a decision. Deshaun Watson has had a tendency to rise to the occasion. If you remember the national championship game that they lost to Alabama,
oh yeah,
400 yards in that game and only lost by about a touchdown, Charlton.
Yeah.
But no one has had an answer for Jackson. This kid, whether he's running or throwing, I think Clemson may try to, stack the box on him to cut down on his running.
Yeah.
But he's a tremendous thrower. So, you got to pick your poison when you're playing Louisville. They haven't had a lot of success over the years playing top teams, but Lamar Jackson is the best player in Louisville since Teddy Bridgewater of the Vikings.
Well, I'm telling you right now, the point spread, it keeps changing. One paper has Louisville by 2, and then the other sources have, Clemson by a little bit. But it just seems that because so much money is going on in Louisville, Las Vegas doesn't like to lose money, and that's probably the game of the week outside of Michigan and Wisconsin. But this game is sexy because they have two Heisman Trophy quarterbacks going after each other. Something also to pay attention to, Big C, when you think about a game like this, and you know you're a defensive guy. You guys cheat. You guys hold a lot. You guys. Well, you know
we played the game on the edge, Charlton. If it was no flag, you were okay, all right?
Yeah, well, the edge of the jerseys, from what I understand, Big C, but the over-under in this game is not as high as you would expect for a game like this. The over-under is only 67 points, 67 and a half. Louisville scores that by themselves, Big C, so that's a little bit shocking to see the over-under so low, Big C.
Well, this is a game that you'll see 80 points put on the score, but I think the over-under being so low is because Clemson has not broke out yet this season, Charlton. They only scored, I believe, 26 points against Georgia Tech last week.
Yeah.
So they have not been that explosive offensive team. Louisville just scores at will. They're going to come out. They score points before they walk out of the locker room, so they spot people, you know.
Yeah. They're floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee when you look at what Louisville is doing, Big C. So I don't think the point spread, the over-under, to me, that's a little bit low for a team that can come out and get 30 points in the first half just because they're that dynamic. But the thing that doesn't scare me because I'm not in the game, Big C, but when I think about what happens in the world of sports and how these lines keep changing in Las Vegas, it hasn't been consistent the whole week, Big C. So I don't know what's going on behind the scene. I do believe it will be a close game, Big C. And I don't even know who to go for. I just think the best team will win. That best team to me is Louisville, but something tells me Las Vegas wants Clemson to win, and I wouldn't put that much past them, Big C. Another game that's going to be huge as far as conference alignment and conference championships goes. We look at your best friend, Jim Harbaugh, and what he's done when he was at San Diego.
Did he ever sell his house that was next to yours?
Hey, I have no idea, Big C, as we digress from that house situation. I think he has multiple houses, Big C. But that game against Wisconsin, this to me, Wisconsin's not getting the same respect that they didn't get the same respect against LSU, Big C. And even though people say LSU's offense was bland, I think this is a game that Michigan wins, but I would not be surprised at all if this is that one chink in the armor of Coach Harbaugh. Your thoughts on Michigan and Wisconsin, Big C?
Well, Wisconsin has really rebounded their program, Charlton. They're starting their second quarterback of the season. This game will be his second start because they lost their original starter. But, they've always been a dominant force in the Big Ten, Charlton, when you look at what they've done. Michigan, the former home of former President Gerald R. Ford, who played center for them, I believe, in 1948.
Yeah.
He was a starting center.
Well, how do you know that, Big C? ESPN wasn't around until 1983.
Okay.
Okay.
They forget the real people who played the game.
Okay. But when
Michigan,
go ahead. Yeah.
Harbaugh has turned this program around.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been a solid program. This is the second year that he's been there, his second starting quarterback. But he's infused this team, Charlton, with a lot of speed.
Yeah.
That's the difference in Michigan over the past 5 years is the speed that they have across the board, offensively and defensively. Wisconsin has just always been a power football team, Charlton. They're going to bring it right at you.
Yeah.
And, if Michigan can withstand that power game of Wisconsin, they can come out of this. But the loser of this game loses their chance to be in the BCS playoffs.
Yeah, because I think you're right, because there's so many good teams at the top of the heap. When you talk about the BCS, Big C, if anyone's going to lose, though, it's best to lose early. So that gives them some hope, because I don't think we're going to see more than maybe one or two at the best undefeated teams at the end of the season. There's so much talent that's spread out throughout the country, Big C, and not everybody can go to schools like Alabama. And when you talk about a school like Alabama, they have a game this week against Kentucky. That game could probably be over by halftime, Big C, because
they should have the Little League mercy rule in that game.
They might have the mercy rule in that game, Big C. But I'm telling you, that's a game that Kentucky will be up for, because everybody plays their best when you're playing against Alabama, unless you're the USC Trojans, unfortunately, Big C. For coach. Well, we know they have a coaching search going on right now as we speak in Los Angeles, Big C. And also, another good game that maybe doesn't have the same kind of national flavor, but I think when you look at what it can mean for our program, we talked about Nebraska. Now, Nebraska's undefeated. They're a 20-point favorite over Illinois, and this is a team that beat Oregon, even though Oregon, their tailback got hurt in that game, Big C. But I think Riley's doing a good job at Nebraska. They have a chance to jump into the top part, the upper echelon of the Big Ten, because Michigan or Wisconsin's going to lose and Ohio State's not going to lose. But this puts Nebraska back in the talk of not necessarily national championships, but conference championships. Has Riley made that much of a difference with his open offense, Big C?
Well, he has, Charlton, when he's added speed. And that's what you keep talking about in college football, adding speed. Mike Riley has brought a little of that West Coast flair out to the plains in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And that's been the difference in their offense. If you look at what they're doing, they're a little more exciting than what they were with Bo Pelini before he was let go.
Yeah.
And they challenged then. But when you look at them offensively, I believe Tommy Armstrong, the quarterback.
Armstrong.
He's really developed under Riley.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in this team, Charlton.
Well, when we talk about the differences in team, LSU, if there's any time for a letdown, it could be this week. They're playing at Missouri. That game is at LSU. They're a 13-point favorite. The over-under is 53. Now, with the over-under being 53, LSU doesn't score a lot of points, even with Les Miles. I don't know how they respond to having him leave. And then I think they had another coach that was fired also, Big C. It's kind of
offensive coordinator Cam Cameron.
Yeah, Cam Cameron. And I feel bad for guys like Fournette who would build up as a Heisman Trophy candidate, and all these great players that put in a lot of time and sweat for free, Big C. They don't get paid for it, Big C, but they put in a lot of time and energy to help get to the next level if they can. And then their coach is taken out in the fourth game of the season. How do players react to that, Big C?
Well, it's a very difficult situation because you came to that university expecting for him to be there through your entire time being there, Charlton.
Yeah.
And Les Miles was let go unceremoniously. The offensive coordinator, Cam Cameron, was let go also. So it's an adjustment period. How do you replace an entire offense in 1 week, Charlton?
Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing. How do you change up all the play calls? What you're going to run offensively? That's a tough task. That's the reason why you go to spring football. That's why you go to preseason football in NFL and training camp.
Yeah.
So that you can put in a system. 1 week will not make that much a difference in that game. Take the under, Charlton.
Well, Big C, when you talk about taking the under, another game, and we don't like to talk about coaches losing their jobs, but you've been around a long time, and you know what it's like when you don't please the good old boys. They're going to tell you they're coming to get a good education, and that's why they're hiring coaches to make sure your kids can. I feel for Helton and also Lynn Swann, because Lynn Swann I've always admired him when he played. I also was working in production when he was working with ABC Sports, and I also want to think that Lynn Swann, he was going to need another year or two like Mike Garrett had when he helped build USC into a national power. But Helton seems like he's already out the door, Big C. I don't know how they're going to play hard for him right now. They returned 15 starters plus one on special teams, and they're a 10-point favorite at home versus Arizona State. But USC, they lost to Utah and they lost to Stanford. They just didn't seem like they played with energy, and I don't expect that after watching the Trojans for about the last 35 years, Big C.
Well, Charlton, this is an upset game that's going by the spread. Arizona State can easily handle this game against USC. This is a team in disarray. You're sitting there with the uncertainty of your coach being around after this week. You go out and you play hard regardless every week. But right now, the talent base at USC is just not what it was 10 years ago, Charlton. You got to look at the players that Pete Carroll brought into that program, where they were consistently challenging for a national championship. And you look at the players that have come along since, with these other three coaches that have been in since Carroll.
Yeah.
It has just not been the same. So USC has to go through a total rehaul. They need to go on the outside, bring in a coach that has no affiliation with the program. And trust me, there'll be a lot of them available. A lot of them.
Big C, think about this. We just talked about what happened to Nebraska, how they turned around a great program that had been on the lower end of a lot of scores, Big C. And before Riley went to Nebraska, he wanted to coach at Southern Cal. Now Nebraska's trying to get talent out of California as well. If he goes, and I'm not saying he is, if he gets out of his contract at Nebraska because they have the administration and people from the state trying to shut down players for even having their First Amendment rights expressed, he can't want to stand up and try to recruit black athletes when you have the administration in the school saying they're going to kick players off the team for exercising their First Amendment rights. How do you recruit, unless you have parents that are just ignorant, and I don't think there's going to be many ignorant parents left to have their kids going off to college. If Riley goes to USC, he's in the heart of college football talent in Southern California. He's going to have the backing of Lynn Swann and the whole USC alum behind him. They've seen that he has an open-style, high-octane offense. He wouldn't have to fly across the country to recruit the most talented kids in California. He would be right there at USC. We know that Halford is going to be out. I would do everything I could if I'm Lynn Swann to go after the guy that even won at Oregon State, Big C.
Well, think about the guy even up at the University of Oregon, Charlton.
Yeah.
So, you got two opportunities right there from a current Pac-10, Pac-12 coach, and a former Pac-12 coach who run the same type of system.
Yeah.
So, USC will have an opportunity to pick around the country where they want to go. Even Tom Herman, everybody talked about him down at the University of Houston, saying that he's a shoe-in for the LSU job.
Right.
The SC job is more attractive
than the
LSU job.
Yeah.
Because now you don't have to compete against Alabama.
Yeah.
Mississippi. Some of these stronger teams, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
In that conference down there, the SEC. So, Georgia.
Yeah.
Florida. I would rather take the SC job.
Yeah.
Because now your recruiting base is going to be nationwide because of your alumnus, but you're going to have the entire West Coast in California that you can recruit from also.
And
so SC to me is the sexiest job out there, Charlton, as far as the coach goes.
Yeah, and when you think about it, now they have an NFL team back in town. Where else do you need to go to get recruited? You're in the same stadium as a pro football team. Any coach in the country, if you're looking for a job, if you don't take the SC job, then you might want to go back to high school. And also, Kylie Jenner follows me on Facebook, Big C. I think she's a sister of Kim Kardashian. Who wouldn't want to go to a game where Kim Kardashian's in the front stands, Big C? Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, I guess she would take all the attention away from the cheerleaders, Charlton. But, she would be taking selfies the whole time.
She'd be taking selfies the whole time, but think about that. She might take selfies of the opposing team's playbook, Big C, the way they did it down in Alabama when they played USC, when Sarkisian went down there with the playbook. But LA does have that sexiness appeal. I think California has some of the most beautiful women in the world. And I know you good old girls down south might dispute that a little bit, but we do clip our fingernails out here at Big C, and nail polish is used for your toes, not for painting and graffiti on the walls, Big C. That's just my opinion. But I think SC is a very sexy job when it comes to that, Big C. And I also want to say this section is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. We are also endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society, and we are working to employ over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States for people who want to advertise. Just contact Charlton and Big C Sports on Twitter or Facebook. Also, Big C, I know your favorite pastime outside of Alabama football and then Alabama practice, Big C, is actually this thing called the NFL. And for some coaches, it stands for not for long if you don't win, Big C, unless you're Jeff Fisher. Your thoughts on what game are you looking forward to in the NFL this weekend, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at these teams that are undefeated. You got to look at the Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
They're 3-0, leading the division. This is a team that nobody expected to do anything after Bridgewater left. They lost their offensive tackle, they lost their running back. But this defense of the Vikings, Charlton, has just been lights out. Yeah. And so, it goes back to the Purple People Eater days. And, I know you don't remember that. That's
I was too young, Big C.
but that happened.
Yeah.
So, I'm really looking forward to the Vikings this weekend.
Yeah.
To see if they can keep that streak rolling.
Yeah.
And, this is a solid team. They got the New York Giants in town. Eli Manning has been known to explode in the fourth quarter.
He did against Washington, Big C. Didn't play very well against the Redskins.
And you got Odell Beckham and the head coach in a spouting match.
Yeah.
So, and it comes down to what we talk about this social divide that we have. We got the head coach telling Odell Beckham to sit down and shut up.
Yeah. A grown man.
Grown man. What he's doing on the sideline, and people lose track of this, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is what the media implodes, okay?
Yeah.
The media is doing this, not Odell Beckham. CBS does not have to put one camera on Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
Or Fox, who's ever broadcasting it. You don't have to put one camera on it. But you feel that the game is less important than the individual. So this is the media creating this mockery out there. They feel that individual is larger than the game, so they focus on its sideline antics.
Yeah.
If we didn't see one game camera turned on Odell Beckham, would anybody know that he'd take his helmet, slammed it into the kicking net?
Yeah.
Would anybody have known that he was bashing his head against the equipment stand?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't. But this comes from the media trying to create friction, Charlton. If the media did not do that and focus on the game, what the fans are coming to watch and turning on the TV to watch, then we don't see these sideline antics, Charlton.
Well, Big C, let me just get your thoughts on last night's game, Cincinnati in a must-win game over Miami. It was 22-7 on Thursday night. Your thoughts on that game? I thought Cincinnati played very well. but maybe they're going to have to keep that kind of effort going forward, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, Charlton, it's like I've been looking at for a long time. Nobody likes to play on a short week.
Yeah.
These Thursday night games are becoming atrocious.
Yeah.
They're non-exciting. I mean, when you think about it, both teams scored a touchdown in the first quarter, and that was it.
Yeah.
You had 3 quarters of football without a touchdown. That's not exciting football. Now, football takes a long time to recuperate from.
Yeah.
So to play on a short week 4 or 5 days after you played your last game is an unfairness to the players. It's all about money mongering from the owners in the league to try to make more money is what that's all about. Well, but, Miami, how long can you ride with Miami, Charlton?
Yeah.
With the players, with the coach. I mean, they brought him in, said he was the next Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
He might be, but he's not that now.
He didn't
Ryan
have
Tannehill.
Yeah, you're right.
Ryan Tannehill is not the answer quarterback, Charlton.
And he didn't have Bill Belichick on his defense either, even Parcells, Big C. Now, Sunday has a great game. It's the Raiders versus Baltimore. That's a 10 a.m. start in Baltimore. Now, Baltimore's trying to go to 4-0, which is rare for a team to go to 4-0 in the season. The Raiders had a good win over Tennessee, but I think that game was kind of given to them. I'm pulling for the Raiders because I would like to see the West Coast have some championship games in the fall, Big C. But I'm thinking that might be too much to go across the country twice and get a win. But if they do, it's going to be because their defense creates turnovers, Big C. I don't see a high-scoring game in that game, but I do see, and I don't want to say this, but I'm not biased. I think Baltimore might pull out a close win, but I would not be surprised if Flacco throws a pick or two that the Raiders come out with that win, Big C.
Well, he threw a couple picks in last week's game, Charlton, but Joe Flacco is a quality quarterback coming back this year off that knee injury.
Yeah.
The Raiders just haven't found any consistency. They got a great receiving core, but their defense has just not lived up to the billing that they were hyped to.
Yeah.
That's what Del Rio has to fix is that defensive side of the ball. You can score all the points in the world, but eventually if you can't stop anybody, you run out of gas and they'll beat you.
Yeah,
and Baltimore,
that's true.
Based on how Oakland's defense is playing, they'll put up 31 points against this team, Charlton.
Well, they're a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 46, so a little bit fishy about a 3-point favorite at home against a team that's traveled almost 6,000 miles by the time they show up, Big C. So something's going on in that game. It should be a close game. I look for a pick, and the Raiders win if they get a pick on defense. If they don't get a pick on defense, they'll probably fall. Also, another game that should be pretty decent. On the defensive side of the ball, the Dallas Cowboys really looking forward to seeing Dak Prescott come out to California. They're playing the 49ers at a 125 start in San Francisco, Santa Clara. And that's a game where I think Prescott can really show, what he's made of. I don't think they should put the whole game on his shoulders, Big C. But I think against 49ers and Blaine Gabbert with his 30 QBR rating, looks like a game that Dallas should win, Big C.
Well, the thing for me, Charlton, I'm wondering if the local media is starting to doubt Blaine Gabbert yet as a quarterback.
No, not yet, Big C. Not yet. They used to lose in like 10 games a season. They've only lost three so far, Big C.
So he can rebound from that 30 QBR rating.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Dallas has played very well defensively in the first part of the season. Then the 49ers can't score.
Yeah.
They can't score offensively. So Blaine Gabbert, what you do is just blitz it. Just blitz it. Prescott has played well.
Yeah.
He hasn't played super, but he's played well. He's played with what they've asked. Cowboys will be out without Dez Bryant this week.
Yeah.
Which may slow them down a little bit. But if they win this game, you'll know that Dak Prescott has arrived as a quarterback being without his top receiver.
Well,
look at him depending heavily on Jason Witten at tight end.
Yeah.
But Blaine Gabbert, when you look at the Niners offense, Carlos Hyde, yes, is a solid running back.
Yeah.
But you look around at the rest of the team, and you're trying to figure out, as well as they're trying to figure out, is who else is on the field.
Well, I think we just talked about the Coach Riley from Nebraska going to USC perhaps next year if he likes money, Big C. But, Chip Kelly might be trying to beat him down I-5 corridor, Big C. So we'll find out how much he pushes Gabbert into the abyss of the NFL quarterbacks. Also, another game that's coming up in the NFL, we have the Indianapolis Colts at Jacksonville. Jacksonville just doesn't even know where they are right now. Indianapolis should be a game that they win with Andrew Luck going into town. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, if Indianapolis loses this game with the skill receivers that Andrew Luck has, there's no hope for the rest of the season for Indianapolis and Chuck Pagano. He would have to go.
Yeah.
But Jacksonville is just a team that's been in the wasteland, Charlton, for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles is a solid quarterback.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a solid foundation around it, Charlton.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. And also, speaking of another team, another game coming up is you have a team that really has to get on track, Carolina at Atlanta at 10 a.m. East Coast start. Atlanta's looking actually pretty good, but you have Cam Newton. They have to go in there and turn things around, but so much turmoil going on in the state of Carolina. This might be a game where Carolina can go on the road, get away from the pressure, and win. They're actually favored by 1 at Atlanta with a 49.5 over-under, Big C. Your thought, can Cam Newton get on track this week, Big C?
Well, the last time these two teams met, Charlton, Atlanta beat Carolina and broke their winning streak.
Yeah.
Stopped that perfect season.
Yeah.
So they know something about Carolina, and Cam Newton has just struggled. The offensive line has really struggled, Charlton. Cam Newton has been hit more times than any other starting quarterback in the NFL this year, more than Blaine Gabbert.
Could it be the Super Bowl hangover, Big C?
The line struggles have been true for Carolina.
Yeah.
You have a great receiving core, and their defense can play football, but that offensive line right now is their Achilles heel. And if they can't get it done against Atlanta, it's going to be a season that they're going to miss the playoffs, Charlton.
Well, they talk about the Super Bowl hangover. Maybe we're seeing it right now, Big C. The next game coming up is Tennessee at Houston. Tennessee's going to have to play a team that doesn't have Watt anymore, Big C. Your thoughts on Tennessee being able to rebound? They should have beaten the Raiders, I thought. Do you think they get the game going on the road at Houston? Houston's a 4.5-point favorite. That over-under is 41 points, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, they're talking about Brian Cushing, the great linebacker out of that school
USC.
USC.
Yeah.
Being ready to play in this game. J.J. Watt will be a huge loss on that Houston defense. Jadeveon Clowney, the number 1 overall pick 3 years ago, this is his time.
Yeah.
If he can't get it done now, everybody will know that he was a bust in the draft, Charlton. But, Osweiler right now is lamenting because he didn't put any points on the scoreboard last week. The head coach will be doing the play calling this week. O'Brien is going to call the plays for him.
Yeah.
So, there's changes already going on in Houston. They've hit the panic button.
Yeah,
when the head coach said, I'll take over the play calling, the panic button has been hit, Charlton. He don't trust offensive coordinator. But he's also got to not trust the quarterback who can't get the ball to the receivers, Charlton.
Well, in defense of Osweiler, that the defenses he's been facing, they're a lot tougher than that woman that he pushed down in Houston twice, and nothing happened to him, Big C. But he can't push around real men. They tend to push back, Big C. The next game coming up, the Seattle Seahawks, my pick to win the NFC West. They're on the road across the country playing the Jets at 10 a.m. start. It's always tough when a West Coast team has to go 3,000 miles and play an early game on the East Coast, Big C. Your thoughts on Seattle traveling across the country, playing the Jets in a game that the Jets have to win, but the Jets haven't looked all that solid so far, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, you got a gimpy quarterback from Seattle and Russell Wilson with a knee strain.
Yeah.
You got an interception-prone quarterback with the Jets, Fitzpatrick, who threw 6 picks last week.
Yeah.
And this game is more hyped about 2 defensive backs. Richard Sherman, a very solid, vocal cornerback.
Very good.
Cornerback who has challenged the NFL this week and the owners about them not caring about players. But it's a business.
Yeah.
And everyone has a chance to voice. Nobody's told them to sit down and shut up. But, Darrell Revis.
Yeah, Revis is good.
Once was known as Revis Island.
Yeah.
Now is like a sinking ship. I mean, everybody wants to line up against Darrell Revis.
Yeah. He's more like Jekyll Island right now, Big C.
This year, Charlton. So if Russell Wilson can have some success against his Jets, he's going to have to challenge Darrell Revis and challenge him deep.
Yeah.
Seattle hopes to win this game.
Well, what I love about the Jets crowd is those I think they're firemen or whoever they are, but they chant Jets, Jets. So at least it's easy to spell, Big C, so I don't have to miss that the way I mess up the Canadian national anthem, Big C. But that should be a good game if Seattle can pull that one out. Another game, I don't even know why they keep playing football in Chicago until they turn things around. Detroit, they're on the road at Chicago, 10 a.m. start. Your thought on that game, Big C?
Detroit should easily handle Chicago in this game, Charlton. Chicago is a team in total disarray. John Fox was brought in to right the ship a couple of years ago when he was let go in Denver. And, the thing that he didn't do, Charlton, was get rid of the apparent quarterback that they had at that time.
Yeah.
He'll be gone by the end of this season. But, that's been the problem with the Bears organization. They haven't been able to have any continuity.
Yeah.
All these players that they had expectations of have not delivered. And they're a professional organization, a proud professional organization. George Halas, started the Monsters of the Midway years ago. Great organization. But, the Bears don't have an answer at quarterback.
Yeah.
Not had a running back to replace Fournette.
Yeah.
I mean, Forte, who went to the Jets and who's having a good, decent season. but their offensive line just hasn't gotten the job done, and whoever they put back there, quarterback, is going to be running for his life.
Yeah.
Detroit should just handle them in this game.
Well, it should be a game that Detroit wins. Also, this final segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. We're also looking for 1,000 brokers to go help offer a final expense and life insurance, protecting American families. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports to find out more information on that. Big C, a big game, even though it may not seem like a big game, but it's a big game when you have the Buffalo Bills going into New England. And I think Tom Brady's going to be back or is he out for one more week, Big C?
He's out for one more week, and, the toss-up is who will play quarterback. Will it be Garoppolo coming back?
They're all banged up. Yeah.
One more week.
Yeah.
This is a must-win game for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
If they don't win this game, there's no chance of them winning the division, or he probably even making the playoffs.
Yeah.
McCoy hasn't been up to standard all year. They just put Sammy Watkins on the injury reserve, their top receiver.
Yeah.
So there's some trouble. They haven't gotten Marcel Darius back. He's out another game on the defensive line. Probably was their best lineman.
Yeah.
So this is the team that's really challenging. Bill Parcells, even though Belichick, not Parcells, Ryan has won the games against Belichick.
Yeah.
This is one of those games that's a trap game in a way, but I do like what New England can do. They're so diverse offensively, and their defense, you can't figure it out.
Well, that's very true.
They cannot figure it out, and Blunt is just a solid running back right now.
Oh, yeah, he's a great player out of Oregon also. And then Cleveland at Washington, that's a game that's going to be a 10 a.m. kickoff in Washington. Your thoughts on both teams are struggling, even though Washington got the win over the Giants last week. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Cleveland has to win a game eventually, Charlton. They've had so many losses.
No, they don't, Big C. They don't have to win eventually, Big C.
Josh Gordon just went into rehab today,
Yeah.
Receiver, and the Browns are going to have to cut ties with him eventually.
Oh, yeah.
But, you got Pryor out there, wide receiver, who's played good.
He was stud.
He's been the best player on the team. The defense really hasn't played that bad in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's just them finding some consistency at offense. Cody Kessler will start his second game. Think about it. In 4 games, your rookie backup third-string quarterback is starting his second game.
Yeah.
So you've lost a lot offensively. You've lost your starting center. So, this Cleveland Brown organization has had a lot of injuries.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Coach Hugh Jackson's going to get blamed for it. But how do you blame a head coach for players getting hurt?
No, he needs 2 or 3 years to build that.
Situation in the NFL,
he needs the Jeff Fisher treatment. If that's the case, he'll be there 27 years, Big C, figuring it out, Big C. And also another game we have, which actually has some appeal to it. Defensively, you have Denver going into Tampa Bay, taking on Winston and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's a 105 start Eastern Time, Big C. Denver's defense, until someone finds a way to solve that defense, I'm not going to go against Denver. Their defense is solid. They have the greatest pass rush, it seems, and they're coached well. I think we see right now that it was not Peyton Manning last year that helped Denver win the Super Bowl. They have a solid team, and they're actually a favorite just by 3 points over Tampa, Big C. The over-under is 43. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, Anderson's been solid at the running back position, and you look at their receiving corps, led by Demaryius Thomas. But Simeon, when you think about what Simeon has done in the NFL this year, Charlton, basically as a second-year rookie quarterback,
yeah,
he has played lights out. The offense in Denver right now is better than the offense at the same time a year ago.
Yeah.
Because you have a quarterback that can push the ball down the field, so it doesn't allow teams to load 8 in the box and stop the running game, which is the difference on the offense this year. But when you talk about Denver's defense, there's none better right now in the NFL. There hasn't been one better in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And that accreditation goes to Wade Phillips, Charlton, the son of the late Bum Phillips.
Yeah.
Head coach of the Houston Oilers for a long, long time in the New Orleans Saints. But Wade Phillips, had his run as a head coach, wasn't successful. He was in Dallas, got fired like everybody else there. But he was with the Texans. But since coming to Denver, Charlton, he has rekindled his spirit and his fire about defense.
Yeah.
And when you look at the players that John Elway has brought in for him to coach, it's got him a Super Bowl win.
Oh, yeah.
You think about it. The 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl, one team is 1-2. One team is 3-0, Charlton.
Isn't that amazing, Big C? Another great game. It's looking like a great game now because you have the division-leading Los Angeles Rams. Still great to say Los Angeles when it comes to NFL football, Big C. They're actually on the road in the desert playing at Arizona, and that's a 125 West Coast start. Now, this is a turn of the tables, Big C, because everyone thought that Arizona would be a team challenging for the West. But right now, the Rams, I know we're not at the halfway point, but the Rams, they actually look pretty decent. They went across the country and beat up on Tampa Bay. Now they get to go to the Southwest and play Arizona. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, Charlton, this is a battle for the West Coast supremacy right now. If the Cardinals drop this game, they basically eliminate themselves from winning the division.
Yeah.
And they give the Rams such a kickstart starting out the season 3-1 if they come out of this game victorious that, it may be no stopping them. They found a new life coming to the West Coast. But the Cardinals and Carson Palmer just been lackluster offensively.
Yeah. They
haven't got their run game on track. They put a lot of money into their defense when you think about their defensive backs. And they haven't stopped anybody, Charlton. They had some high draft picks on the defensive line.
Yeah.
So they really need to figure it out. They're at home against the Rams. So, Case Keenum is getting the job done. And if he continues to get the job done, Jeff Goff may never see the field this year, Charles.
Well, speaking of seeing the field, the Arizona is actually an 8-point favorite over the Rams, and the over-under is 42. So that is a game that we also, if Arizona falls in this game, you might be seeing the end of Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald, two guys that will probably be, for sure, first ballot Hall of Famers, Big C. That's one of the things that I'm looking at also. Coach like Bruce Arians on the hot seat, unfortunately, on the hot seat for having a much better record than the guy they just coached against in Fisher, Big C. So a great game with a lot of intrigue on the outside of that. And before we get to the last segment, this final segment is sponsored by BeneathThisWingsFoundation.org and also CYNN Entertainment. When it comes to promotions, Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. And for any advertiser looking to advertise on the iHeartRadio, which is the biggest network, the biggest platform in the country, we just had a concert down in Las Vegas with great entertainers. You can also find great sports by following Charlton and Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the iHeartRadio network. Big C, the last couple of games we'll get into. The New Orleans Saints, which have been disappointing this year. We know that Breeze signed the contract extension, $44 million, I believe. They're at San Diego. They also have their quarterback issues, Big C. That's a 125 start here on the West Coast. Your thoughts on Drew Brees? Did they give him too much money? It's hard to say that, but did they give Brees too much money, Big C, with the way they're playing?
Well, every now and then, Charles, you got to spend a little money on defense.
Yeah.
Brees can't do it all by himself. You think about it. This is where his career started in San Diego. Would San Diego have ever won a Super Bowl if they'd have kept him there over Phillip Rivers?
Wow.
But this is one of those chance games. They lost Manti Te'o on defense last week.
Yeah.
In San Diego, they're still waiting on Joey Bosa. So their defense is not that good. They've lost two key offensive players in Allen at wide receiver and Whitty in the running back.
Yeah.
So, they're not up to strength. San Diego, if they're going to win the game, this will be the game.
Well, they actually have Big C. Las Vegas has San Diego 4.5-point favorite. The over-under is 53 in that game. It's just hard to imagine if you looked at all the great quarterbacks. I'm going back to Y.A. Tittle, whether it's Johnny Unitas, whether it's someone like Terry Bradshaw, or even someone like, I think he was really jobbed, but Randall Cunningham was one of the better quarterbacks that really didn't get a lot of credit for it, as well as Warren Moon, Dan Towns, all these great guys. Would you ever imagine Drew Brees starting the season 0-4, Big C?
You never would think about it. This guy holds the NFL record for 300-yard games,
yeah.
400-yard games. He's a tremendous talent. But, that one individual without a running game,
yeah.
without a solidified offensive line, that's been a problem for New Orleans. So, for some reason, Sean Payton has just not been able to put it together over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Even though Drew Brees is playing at an all-pro level every year, he has to have that supporting cast. And that defense in New Orleans is been like pouring water through a sieve. You can't stop anything.
Or I thought you were going to say moonshine. Maybe they need to call Paul Mitchell and learn how to stiffen that defense the way he stiffens hair on you good old girls down south, Big C. In fact, I did tell you I dated a girl from down south one time. She didn't do her hair, but man, she was really good looking, Big C. And speaking of good looking, this final game, Big C, it has a lot of intrigue, even a playoff style intrigue to it, because you have the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're going in to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that game's a 5:30 start. That's going to be carried by NBC and the great Al Michaels, Big C. This is a game where the Steelers, for some reason, how they lose to Philadelphia, I don't know, but Philadelphia has a good defense. Just your thoughts on Roethlisberger and Alex Smith. This is a marquee game for NBC's Big C.
Well, Pittsburgh will be smiting from this game last week, Charlton, against Philadelphia, but they get their running back Bell coming back off suspension.
Yeah.
Roethlisberger did not play up to his level of performance. But also, you got to give kudos to Philadelphia. They've played a marvelous first 3 games of the season. Kansas City's been up and down. They're expecting to get Charles back in their backfield. So, these are 2 teams getting key players back that are coming off some tough weeks. Kansas City also beat the Jets last week.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit of momentum. Pittsburgh's defense has just not been good, really, Charlton, in the past 2 years since Dick LeBeau has left. So that's the difference in the game. Kansas City should be able to take this one over Pittsburgh.
Well, Big C, we've covered the NFL. We've covered some big games in college football. And we've talked about, the world of sports and social issues overall. And I hope that people can realize that our country can be as great as our sports teams have given the example. I'm so proud of Greg Popovich for the San Antonio Spurs. Now, here's a man that's very intelligent, doesn't really speak a lot when it comes to being interviewed on the sidelines, but when they ask him about a social issue, I'm so proud that people are starting to do what you talked about a few years ago, and what Larry, I think it was Jim Brown and Harry Everett and Kareem talked about when Muhammad Ali passed away. We need to have a social consciousness where intelligent people start talking about what can fix our society's issues. And we've always said that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and because it's a billion-dollar industry, people can put their money behind it, and sports teams, I think, is a good thing when sports and athletes start using their power and their influence to start trying to make a difference in the lives of all people. We should be anti-sexism. We should be anti-racism. We should be anti-discrimination. We should have an egalitarian country because our Constitution says that all of us are created equal, Big C. I just want to get your thoughts on what it means to you when we have intelligent people starting to stand up, like a Greg Popovich, or like the commissioners for the NFL and Goodell and the NBA for Silver and Manfred for the Major League Baseball. We're going into the playoffs, and also the commissioner for hockey. When you have intelligent people, and they're starting to be Caucasian now, that it's like the white men are no longer afraid to say, you know what, there is some injustice in our society, and how can we use sports and the platform of sports to stop exploiting black athletes, because the ones that don't make the pros, they languish in these communities, Big C. When we have a bank like Wells Fargo that destroys their pensions and takes their money away, and none of those people are being told to sit down and shut up, but intelligent athletes are. So I'm going to throw it to you. I'm so proud of our white brethren behaving like they behaved under Lyndon Baines Johnson, our great late president, when they start saying injustice against one person is an injustice against anybody if you don't do anything about it. So kudos to Greg Popovich. I'm proud of you, and I know some of the good old boys that say sit down and shut up, they probably won't say it to him because he's Caucasian. But let's keep up the good work and having dialogue, Big C. Your thoughts on how sports will bring our society together?
Well, Charlton, it's always nice to lean on sports during hard times. You go back to 9/11, and sports brought the country back together.
Yeah.
But this divide that we have in this social and police injustice, this comes down to 50 individuals in the United States, Charlton. 50 individuals who control that.
Yeah.
And those are the attorney generals of each state. Until they get together and have a quorum, and it's moderated by people of intelligence and in color,
yeah,
to ask the questions that are poignant. Whether you put an athlete on the board, whether you put a law professor on the board, Charlton.
Yeah.
But we have to have someone of color moderating this scenario with these 50 attorney generals.
How about Harry Everett?
If we want equality in America,
yeah,
these people who are the top law enforcement officers in every state, and they police everybody, black, white, Asian, Hispanic.
Yeah.
That's what the attorney generals are for. They need to come out and answer the questions about the injustice and equality in America, Charlton. When they do that, everybody will be safe. Not races living in fear, but everybody will be safe. On the street,
yeah,
in a sporting arena, wherever. But we need to find tactics as Americans that will work and not put it on these sports leaders and officials to solve American problems. That's why the attorney generals were appointed or voted into office, Charlton.
Well, Big C, that is so powerful. So when you contrast what Greg Popovich said as an intelligent man who's respected, many years of coaching, over 2 decades coaching in the NBA. Now, ironically, most of his players are African American. He has players from Europe too. Very diverse as the NBA is. Contrast Greg Popovich. He's a Caucasian man, because people make it seem like a black thing when we talk about Black Lives Matter. He's acknowledging that their society is two societies. It seems to be that people don't all have the same behavior. He doesn't have to talk to his white kids about being pulled over by law enforcement and how to behave so they don't get shot, Big C. Contrast that to a guy like Donald Trump, who's also Caucasian, saying he believes that an unconstitutional law, he wants to implement it, which is called search and frisk. Inner city people. He's talking about doing that to black Americans. He's not saying do that in the white communities. They're not going into Beverly Hills, pulling over people because they look suspicious. He might go into Wells Fargo Bank and get people who are stealing money. But I just want to compliment our white brethren for not being afraid anymore, not being a sycophants, and coming out and talking about right and doing what's right, irrespective of what color you are. That's what Dr. King did. He had people, black and white, marching with him. And he didn't be quiet. And a lot of people wanted him to be quiet and just let the status quo be. So, Big C, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the things you bring to the program. I'm proud of America for having this dialogue. And as we always say, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide, you can follow Charlton and Big C Sports. And we always say, no violence toward women. If you see any woman being in trouble, please call 911. Don't make her deal with that garbage on her own. So, men, please keep our women safe. And I also want to tell you, as we always do, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.